Lagos.
As Nigeria marks 2 years under President Bola Tinubu, the conversation around his administration's performance is now gaining intensity, from the economy to governance, social impact to structural reforms. We are also following closely those conversations and having ours on the show today. Joining me on Beyond the Headlines are two seasoned analysts, economist Saeed Ajadi and lawyer and public affairs commentator Liberous Oshomah, as we break down the promises, the policies, as well as the politics shaping the renewed hope agenda. What has worked, what hasn't, and what should Nigerians expect next? Gentlemen, thank you for joining us on the program this hour.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
In his May 29 speech, we heard the president again acknowledge the pain of economic reforms, but insisted they were necessary for long-term stability. Let me begin with you, Mr. Ajadi. It's 2 years in. Would you say these reforms, especially fuel subsidy removal and FX unification, have they really delivered the expected benefits? Or are we simply witnessing deepened hardship in Nigeria?
Thank you. Good evening once more. I realized from the 2 years of this government that there's been consistency in the policy and in the reforms. You know, early this year, they brought a budget, and I said on one of these forums that it's very ambitious, but it is possible to be effected. Based on the sequence of reforms that the government has put in place, we as economists have to analyze and realize that rebasing pricing and the CPI has proven that it is possible to bring down prices of goods and services. And recently I noticed that the federal government insisted that we should eat what we produce, to clothe ourselves with what we have. And even doing this Eid al-Kabir, we noticed that they closed the borders between Niger, Chad, and all of them. So whatever we are consuming for the Eid is produced in Nigeria. That is very good for development. You see, if the government sustains productivity, it's not just inflation that will come down. Because I listened to the economists that spoke earlier. There are two indices that must be looked at: the reality of the markets and the inflationary trend. The inflationary trend has proven that the government are moving the indices lower. It's called deflation. But the market trend, because government has chosen overproduction rather than price control, because I suggested last year that it's better for government to contribute based on price control in order to interject middlemen and the people they call alajapas. You see, if there's price control and benchmark by government can then show up their production and continuously monitor goods and services moving from the productive area to the consumed area, which will give them data and statistics for Nigerians. However, if the government insists that it is based on productivity that they want to monitor pricing, it means that we have to show production, know the volume of products in the market, know the cost and the values that Nigerians are willing to put in place on those goods and services before we can benchmark productivity.
All right.
But because government has reforms of FX and reforms of
Mr. Jadi, let me stop you there for a while we work on your connection. Let's bring in Mr. Oshomah into this conversation. Mr. Oshomah, you heard Mr. President yesterday saying that our economic reforms are working and that Nigeria is now better positioned for growth. From where you sit, do you share this optimism?
I didn't get your question, please.
I'm asking if you share Mr. President's Mr. President's position and optimism that our economy is booming and that Nigeria is working again.
Even the president's optimism, was punctured by his, let me use the word caveat, that he understands Nigerians' pains and sufferings that the economics reforms are needed for long-term gains. Nobody is talking about the fact that these reforms are not good for long-term gains. But like Nigerians will say, let me use it in local parlance. Now, who they are alive now go benefit for long-term. That's basically what Nigerians are asking for. Yes, they want these reforms, and then there's need to tighten our belt, like they said during SAP. There's need for Nigerians to be patient. But at the same time, the challenge here also is that there's need for the government also to be patient. We see Nigerians tightening their belts, but the government, it's living the opposite of what basically is happening. You see Nigerians just like your report stated, the market prices, Nigerians have adjusted to the market prices. But unfortunately, the reality on ground is that the government officials are still living as if we are living in an economic boom. You're still buying expensive cars, we're still buying jets, we're still paying humongous allowances. The offices are multiplying, assistant, special assistant to special advisor to an advisor to special assistant, and all of that. In one of the states, Akwa Ibom, an SA to the governor appointed 3 SAs. And the reality, when you juxtapose the reality with the attitude of those in government, it does not tally. And then secondly, if you look at the midterm, we're talking about inflation. We're talking about also the fact that there is not much money in circulation. We're talking about the production not increasing. And yet, we are not looking at official corruption. I give you an example. In your news, you're talking about Emefiele. When Emefiele was in government, nobody knew that Emefiele would have stolen that much until he left office. Today, the FCC is more comfortable chasing Yahoo than official corruption. So we see more of Yahoo raids than political investigation. So when you put all of this together, there is no hope for the common man to believe that with this behavior, there's hope in the long term. The only way the people can actually subscribe to that long-term hope is when they see the attitude of those in government in consonance with the attitude of the man on the street. That, look, we feel your pain. We also want to live through this Nigeria. We want to live by Nigeria, live Nigeria, and dream Nigeria. But unfortunately, that's not what we're seeing. So that's why I do not share Mr. President's hope and sentiments.
Mr. Jadi, I'm wondering how you react to his position on the body language of people in government, aligning with the requirement from the people to tighten their belt and, just hold on for a while these reforms pay Nigerians in the long run. Do you agree with him?
No, I don't agree with that because you said something. I'm an economist. He's a lawyer. Talking about the reality of Nigeria, we are consistent rather than epileptic. You see, as a patriotic Nigerian, I believe that there has been stability in the electricity system, though it's at a high cost. I believe that there has been stability in the petroleum distribution system, though it's at a high cost. We have been a capitalist nation for so long, but we have been paying lip service to the fact that there has to be real development. And you see, Yoruba will say, "Titariro la kola, to ba dohun la to marry clarity." What does that mean? It is with pain that you mark yourself. It is with pain that a woman delivers. It is when she succeeds in childbirth that you say, "Oh, I have a son, or I have a daughter," and you start to smile. And she would smile as well. But you see, Nigeria has been at the precipice before this government. So I will not be hypocritical to say this is the situation with this government. As an accountant, I have challenged 4 governments, the first government in democracy, because I knew this was coming for Nigeria 20 years ago. What do I mean? If you fail to plan, you have planned to fail. The president that we have now is not an expert. He has not delivered as we Nigerians wanted. But if we juxtapose it with what was inherent in the previous governments that could not take the bull by the horn, we would say we have a pattern now that we can plan with to succeed.
Let me butt in quickly, Mr. Ajadi, so I can follow up on your position. There are two critical issues here for Mr. President when he assumed power: the removal of fuel subsidy and the FX unification. Yesterday, he mentioned that these were bold and necessary. But in hindsight, I know you're trying to review with what has happened before this administration, but let us just track back 2 years after those decisions were made. Would you say the pain Nigerians have endured over the past 2 years was justified by the kind of progress we have made thus far?
I'm being professional and I'm being a patriotic Nigerian. I am not partisan. I am telling you the reality of the situation. We have been, your smile is affecting the conversation. We have been at seeking situation for the past 20 years. We have been paying lip service to ourselves for the past 20 years. We have been doctoring our accounts and our economy for the past 20 years. We are not productive. Let's not deceive ourselves. The economy has been moribund and comatose for the past 20 years because nothing has been produced except crude oil. And crude oil that we have has been sold futuristically by the previous administration. Don't forget, we should not be having partial amnesia about Nigeria. There is futuristic sale of 2 years by the Buhari administration that whatever is coming in now has been mortgaged 2 years ago. So what we are, let me finish. What we are trying to see now is how we can patch up Nigeria and our economy back to a proper situation where we can plan. We're not saying we have a perfect economy now. We're not saying we have a projective economy. Even the president himself said that yesterday. However, I also differ from the president saying that we can do better. How do I mean? If we have been able to pay $10 billion to IMF in 2 years and say that Nigeria is no more owing IMF, we're not talking about, that's a feat economically. So if out of nothing, we are able to pay our external debt, which was not owed by this government, but by previous administrations that used those monies to pay salaries. If the tax reform that we are projecting now as an accountant comes into play, that is a bracket that will generate a lot of income,
Mr. Ajadi,
a lot of employment.
I hear you.
I am looking at the perspective.
I hear you clearly. Allow me to bring Mr. Oshomah back into this conversation because I heard him laugh while you were talking. Mr. Oshomah, I know you want to react to that, but while you do that, I like this conversation to also make some progress, especially as regards what we heard Mr. President say in terms of inflation easing and that food prices like rice are declining. Is that a reality for Nigerians, especially those at the grassroots? What's the picture from your interactions with ordinary Nigerians in this regard?
Nifemi, that's where the problem is really. Nobody is saying that these reforms are not necessary. I have never said so. And I was waiting to hear where Mr. Ajadi was differing with me, and I didn't hear any. He just regurgitated, the government has done this. We agreed. I completely agree what the government has done. Those reforms are necessary. The problem here is, as also admitted by the president, the problem here is that you have two sets of Nigerians, the political class and the ordinary Nigerians. Why the ordinary Nigerians are asked to bear the brunt, we need to stay put. We need to tighten our belt. We need to suffer so that we can enjoy tomorrow. But the political class are not meant to suffer. They are not bearing the brunt. They are still riding in expensive cars. They are still going home with humongous salaries. They are still giving allowances to girlfriends as if Naira is going out of fashion. They are still, spending money the way they are used to, as though Nigeria were still in the days that the administration is saying that they inherited. While we also admit that, yes, we have paid the IMF loan, but we know how much we have taken from the World Bank. Between May 2023 and now, we have borrowed from, I can give you statistics, 7.2 billion in external loan, all from the World Bank. It includes 750 million in June 2023 for power sector recovery, 500 million in June 2023 for women empowerment, 800 million July 2023 for social safety net, 700 million, only dollars, all these are in dollars, 700 million in September 2023 for adolescent child girl education, 2.3 billion in June 2024 for economic stabilization. So the list, I can go on. And there is another loan now before the National Assembly. I agree, all of these loans are necessary for economic stabilization, for whatever improvement. But the question here is, when you introduce these economic reforms, there are gains. What are we using these gains for? Apart from putting more money in the hands of governors, we're talking about the fair consistency and the fact that we can buy fair. But recently, the new NNPC administration said that all of the bubu-yaya, permit me to use that word, with NNPC that we have seen, all of the repairs, all of the turnaround maintenance, all of the, that we have seen, NNPC will come upstream in December 2023. Oh, no, it will come upstream in April. No, it will come upstream in second quarter of 2024. All of the $1.5 billion that were used to revamp the NNPC, all of them went to naught. And today, we are having to still depend on Dangote. Is that not transferring monopoly from one end to the another? So when you talk about these reforms, that yes, these reforms are necessary for the long run, but the question I will consistently ask, these reforms as necessary as they are, what is the government doing to ensure that you align yourself with the people when people can go with 1.5 billion for turnaround maintenance of NNPC and the money is frittered away and AFCC is rather busy chasing Yahoo boys rather than chasing people who went away with 1.5 billion of refinery money. And then we're talking about just have hope that tomorrow will come and tomorrow will be better.
I hear you clearly, Mr. Oshomah, and I believe that you made your point quite well. Mr. Jadi, quickly, I'd like us to find out what the thin line is between political and economic reasoning, because government revenue hit 6 trillion naira in the first quarter of 2025. One of the loudest rhetoric we've heard from this government is ask the governors what they are doing with this money. I've spoken with two of them on this show. The Nasarawa State Governor acknowledged that allocation from the federal government has really improved under this administration to the point that he is willing to fund state police. His counterpart in Zamfara has a different tale to tell. He said increase in allocation doesn't necessarily mean more value because of inflation. What are we to believe? How do you react to this as an economist?
Thank you very much once more. The reality is we need to deal with. We should not deal with sentiment. The reality is that this government has provided playing fields for people that are ready to work. And whoever is not ready to work, there is going to be a clear essence of your incapability. You see, there's never before in Nigeria that we have full disclosure on things that we are doing. We are seeing clearly from this government that they are giving us full disclosure. One, you said governors are earning more. Maybe that's why they are cross-carpeting easily. However, Are they doing more with the income that has been given to them by the federal government? I will say no. Why? Because you have not put square pegs in square holes. If I have 10 billion naira now and I want to take a state and compete, it's the money that I have that is going to make me the governor. It's not my intellect. So when you are talking about the people themselves need to wake up to the reality and stop being ignorant of governance. You cannot take money from a politician before voting and expect good governance. What we should note is that there is leadership and there is followership. It is the responsibility of the followership to checkmate the leadership based on equal understanding of what governance is all about. But unfortunately, followership has failed. Why? Because our voices and the reality of the situation are not being checked. I mentioned something earlier that will solve the problem for my colleague that is speaking as a lawyer. I said, government said something last year. They are not going to peg or talk about pegging prices. However, they can show up productivity. That is part of their productivity. You have mentioned several loans that has been taken. You mentioned the $7 billion loan. That was from the previous government.
No. Please. I said no, not previous government. I gave you date, please.
Hold on, Mr. Oshomah. You are going to have your time.
You are going to argue with me. I will listen to you. You listen to me, okay? You have mentioned loans. The reality of followership is monies. What have you done with it as Nigerians? America is the greatest debtor. They are owing. China is bankrolling America's funds in dollars, cash. To pay salaries under Obama, they had to borrow. So borrowing is not a big deal in economics. It is how you fund some things when you are at a crisis. It is a continuum. There's no problem about that. What we should be asking is not the problem. How do we solve the problem? You have borrowed money. Are you using it for the right causes? That is what we want to know. If yes, fantastic. If you have a payback plan for those loans to Nigerians, let us know. However, the crop of politicians that you are mentioning that they have not done right by Nigerians, we have offloaded money to them based on what is available now. Are they using the money for the Nigerians that voted for them? No, that is not the problem of the federal government. That is the problem of the sub-nationals, which is the state, the senators, the House of Rep, and the local government. A senator came on air and said that whoever is in the House of Rep now is collecting $1 billion naira for funds to develop their environment. Are we asking them questions? The senators are taking $2 billion. That means that the federal government is funding Nigeria more than it used to be, even when there is inflation. But are we utilizing the funds properly? We should ask ourselves. So the reality of our situation now is that we have been governed for too long with inconsistencies. Right now, I believe that this government, though they have not effected positive change that has impacted completely on Nigerians, we are about to start seeing them.
I hear you, Mr. Chade.
This same station went to Kaduna State.
All right.
To investigate TVC, investigated productivity in Kaduna State. And 2 farmers were reported on this same television station that has made 1.5 billion from fertilizer that was distributed by this government. Nobody's mentioning that. But the people that have made the money and were giving loans under Buhari, 965 billion was issued out by Emefiele for rice production. And I was there in Abuja when they were commissioning the pyramids before Buhari left and said that the cost is 14,000. And we know how much we have given you. What have they given back? Nobody's in jail. And we are hiring rices out, 100,000, blah, blah, blah. Rice has come down to 58,000 now, though. That is showing what? There is more, and so it will come down. That is demand and supply. So for me, if a farmer, a local farmer, can make 1.5 billion from beans alone, he made 350 million. From maize, he made 850 million. From rice, he made 450 million. On this your same channel. For me, I believe that's a feat in less than 1 year.
All right.
So let us comment so that we can have more. And
I hear you clearly, Mr. Jadi.
So that we can have a better nation.
It sounds like a healthy mix. I mean, you are showing us the good side, and Mr. Oshomah is emphasizing on what needs to be done better. I'd like us to tidy this conversation so we can touch quickly on some politics. Mr. Oshomah, you have talked about the need for government to also, tighten its belt exactly in the same way Nigerians are expected to adjust in the face of all of these economic reforms. What do you consider other urgent steps that this administration must take in the second half of its tenure to avoid a full-blown crisis of confidence?
So, thank you. So that we don't run away with this, one-off instances of one farmer making 1.2 billion, another farmer making 700 million, and then why in the midst of 100 farmers, you highlight 2 and then use that to benchmark the entire 100. That's 2%. And then, so also we don't run away with the fact that the governors are getting more money. But also, we should also understand that if, for example, a road you before now would tar with 10 billion, now you have 100 billion. That same road, you can no longer tie it with 10 billion. You probably will need about 50 billion to tar that road today. So you have more money. At the end of the day, sometimes the more money you have can be useless if it is completely taken over by inflation. And that is why, basically, all that we are saying is simple. The government, you have put economic reforms in place to ensure that, we no longer share forests to individuals like they were doing during Emefiele, to ensure that there is appropriate pricing for electricity, there's appropriate pricing for, PMS also, and its attendant products. And that also is supposed to encourage government. With this, government would have enough savings. It is not just about to tout, economic. Government would have enough savings, and those savings you plow into critical sectors. What are these critical sectors? Let me take the Chinese example for example. Because even the Chinese population is even bigger than us, and so what it means is doable. First and foremost, look at our education. Today, what did the Chinese do? They look at the interior. They discovered that there were a lot of migration from the rural areas to the urban areas because there were no jobs in the rural areas. So they concentrated on developing the rural areas. And in developing the rural areas, they needed the raw materials from the rural areas. Not like we are having today, you take out the raw materials and they bring finished products to you. And then because they know that they will need human resources to develop those the raw materials, they concentrated on their education. This government, fantastic, has initiated regional development commissions. But what is the effect of regional development commissions without developmental banks, where your school curriculum is still, your university undergraduate are still trained to be job seekers rather than job creators? When the government is touting saving more money or having more money, putting more money in the pockets of governors who cannot command security. The governors are chief security officers, but they command no flies. We still have, as we speak now, you still have federal government secondary schools. What's the business of federal government with secondary schools? And those secondary schools are moribund. The classrooms are dilapidated. Just recently, the Edo State government renovated the Army Secondary School in Benin. That's not the job of federal government ordinarily, but it is federal government secondary school. So our priorities are misplaced. And so when we talk about, oh yes, the economies, well, there's more money in the hands of the governor. When there is more money and inflation is taking away the money, at the end of the day, work done is zero. And so
Oshomah,
what does the government need to do? The government, first and foremost, there is no country that develops without R&D, research and development. What, as we speak now, Nifemi, Do you know that the presidency does not have a research and development department? And that is why it is easy for us to talk and look at small gains and mighty gains. When you lack research and development, you don't even know where you're coming from. So what do we need to do? Our universities, there's need for the government to sit down and create universities that will create jobs. So if you like, close your borders from today till tomorrow, and you're doing subsistence farming, you will end up as a poor man. And farming without processing. You have maize. Maize are not processed to
we have completely, we're running out of time. Allow me to butt in quickly so that we can wrap this up. We're going to definitely continue this conversation. Can you hear me, Mr. Oshomah? We're going to find time to continue this conversation. Mr. Jadi, I know you want to say something, but here's what I want you to comment on, if you can hear me, Mr. Jadi. This administration is seeing a huge support among the political class, in fact, across the divide. And they say that the Tinubu administration is gaining early momentum ahead 2027. Are you concerned about these early endorsements, and what does it mean for the economy going forward? If you can answer in a minute, Mr. Jadi.
Okay, the reality is that if the government of APC is not effective, people will not go scrap it. Under PDP, it happened like that, almost a one-party state. But the APC took them out because of failure of development. So let us see how it plays out with APC. I don't believe in sentiment. We'll give them their 4 years. For him that said federal government schools, I went to a federal school. My best friends are Fulanis. So I'm really disappointed with that kind of statement from a lawyer. Nigeria's unity is at stake, and you as a total patriotism. You must be first before there's development. Yes, there are myriads of problems, but we have to provide solutions. Government is not an expert. I have brought in technology to Nigeria and innovations, and I've trained Nigerians from my own personal perspective because this is lacking. Okay, so whatever you can contribute to the success of Nigeria, contribute it. Forget the sentiments of politics. We can train ourselves from low end to up end. It is easy to change Nigeria. Attitudinal change you mentioned earlier, that's a fantastic word I will take away from all you have said. That's the only thing. We need attitudinal change. We need to love Nigeria. Nigeria can develop. If you say you want to continue in one, there's no nation.
Mr. Jadi,
let us come together with love, put in our best. Nigeria will change.
I hear you, and I agree with you. Thank you, gentlemen, for joining us on the program. This conversation has not ended. We're going to find time to continue, but a big thank you to Iknam Saida Jadi, lawyer and public affairs commentator, Liberals Oshomah. Gentlemen, thank you for your time on Beyond the Headlines.
My pleasure.
Thank you for having me.
That's our show today. You can watch it again at midnight, I believe, and at 6 a.m. tomorrow. The conversation continues on X. Remember to tag at TVC News NG and at Nifemi Oguntoye. I understand the show returns to 30 minutes, but the conversation continues next week. Stay with us, everyone.